Welcome to The Good Pod, where today we're talking about The Good Wife, Season 1, Episode 9. I am one of your hosts, Jason Reed. With me, as always, the fantastic, the terrific, Miss Marissa Garza.
Oh.
Marissa, you good?
I'm good. You good?
I'm good.
All right. I like it. I hope our viewers are also good, knowing the topic of this episode.
Listen, for those of you that came into this YouTube video, if you're watching on YouTube, thinking that something was going to happen here with the title, The Good Wife, Threesome, sorry to disappoint. We're talking about the show, The Good Wife. Nothing weird or
It's just a
freaky
TV
or
show.
kinky is going to happen here, okay? Funny story. A couple weeks ago, we set out this episode of The Good Wife Conjugal, and it got the most YouTube hits we have ever had on this podcast. I was wondering why, and then I was looking at the episode title. I was like, I wonder if people thought this was going to be something that it definitely wasn't. So for those that came here with those thoughts in mind, sorry to disappoint. It's just a podcast about TV show.
It just proves SEO is real, and it helps find content of all kinds. You just have to put in the right words. I did not think that through when I was formatting how we were going to put the episodes together. I was just like, The Good Wife Season 1, name of episode. And I was like, oh, this will be fine. People get it. It'll be great. But we are sorry if, also, like, if you were looking for that and you also enjoy The Good Wife, like, you made it. Here's the
stick around.
Yeah, there's no kink shaming. There's no nothing. Like, we're here for you. We're here. Welcome to the club. You are more than welcome.
If you're typing in search terms and you stumbled upon this episode, welcome in.
Love it.
Stick around. I think we're pretty entertaining, so I think you'll have fun here. It's not exactly what you were looking for, but stick around. But yes, Marissa, we're here to talk about Good Wife, Season 1, Episode 9, Threesome. This is a very I think this was the best episode of the season so far. What was your overall ranking of this episode in your season 1 mix?
This is like a top contender for sure, because we finally got the Stern of it all, as well as we got a very vulnerable Alicia and a very in a very vulnerable situation of having to deal with everything that her husband did while also trying to protect her family, and also then having to be nice to Peter about it and kind of just go up to him and say, fix it. I don't know what to do, but just fix it. And so it had a lot of different ingredients and really set up the rest of the show in general, because what happens here in this episode is, going to end in some competition for the firm and some things. So we're getting into the meat of it.
Yeah, I had totally forgotten. I was like, did we ever see Stern? I totally forgot what the Stern of it all was, and to have this see the surprise of what Stern was, how we got introduced to Stern was very fun and interesting. It really kind of gives you that classic Good Wife office politics.
Yes,
that this show is known for. So it's really kind of kickstarting the Good Wife into what it will really be. It feels like the past episodes of Good Wife have been really procedurally, and now we're getting to more of the nitty gritty of what the Good Wife is. So I'm really excited about it. I really enjoyed this episode and all the things it brought. Before we get too deep, let's remind everyone how they can support us, how they can get in touch with us. If you want to talk to us about the episodes of The Good Wife, any thoughts you had about the actual show episodes, or any episodes you had about this podcast, you can always email us at thegoodpodfeedback@gmail.com. You can also, if you want to help us out in free and fun ways, you can leave us some reviews and some stars on whatever podcast platform you're on. Apple reviews, you can rate us 5 stars. Also leave a written review. We would love if you would stop by and leave us a written review. We enjoy reading those, and we will read it on the podcast if you leave one. On Spotify, unfortunately, you can only leave stars, so please leave us 5 stars on Spotify. And on YouTube, there's a little thumb down here somewhere. If you click that, it'll let us know you liked the episode. For this week's sponsor, we have Worry Beads.
Oh, I could use some Worry Beads.
Yeah, listen, I reached out and they said, this is what we want you to say. Worry not, that DUI you encountered is only a temporary setback. The Tibetan monks, sorry, let me take that again. Worry Beads. Worry not, that DUI you encountered is only a temporary setback, and the Tibetan monks will shine upon you once again. So listen, Worry Beads, I think they're of Tibetan origins. So they want to kind of, come on the pod, tell you not worry not. Things will look better for you.
I love it.
You brightly once again. So worry beads for all of you out there that need a little help in your lives.
Thanks, worry beads. We could use some. We could all, I think, could use a couple moments of zen these days
Listen,
for sure.
these days, heck yeah, trying times out here. We do have a newer segment we unveiled last week on last week's podcast. We're going to talk about some of the pop culture moments from the time this episode of The Good Wife we're talking about aired. So the date of this episode was November 24th, 2009. One of the top movies in theaters was 2012. I mean, and this was that movie that kind of was about portending the end of the world would be in 2012, and all these natural disaster phenomenons would all come together and mean the end of the world. And seeing as how it's 2024 and we're still podcasting, I don't think that prediction came true. Starring John
Well,
Cusack, 2012 was very special effects heavy. I think if we watched it today, it would be like these special effects are very 2012.
well, I mean, depending on how you look at the world, you could say it's just a very slow version of
Yeah.
2012 happening in the current moment. But 2012, like, fears were real. There were people around me that were really, really concerned that 2012 was going to be like the end of it. It was like a prediction by the Mayans. We had like ancient stuff telling us, we had modern stuff telling us. So it was the only thing besides like Y2K that I could remember that people got real concerned about. So they of course had to make a movie on it.
Yeah, it was like prophesized that that's when the world would end. So
Yeah.
I like I'm trying to remember 'cause I think I might get this confused with that other natural disaster movie, like The Day After Tomorrow.
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah.
I do think I saw both of those in theaters, if I recall correctly. But yeah, that was interesting movie. You know, I couldn't tell you a thing about it today, but I probably enjoyed it back then.
I mean, it was a thing.
Top TV shows at the time, we had Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader was coming on. I was a I was a Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader fan, of course, hosted by Jeff Foxworthy. Had that catchy theme song, you know, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Da, 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 da. That's the biggest thing I remember from that. And I do believe actually there's a reboot in the works. And believe it or not, the person they're thinking about having hosting this is the one and only Travis Kelsey.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, okay. But also, I wonder if it should be Are You Smarter Than Third Grader these days? Like, I don't know. Like, we might have to lower the bar, but if we only knew back in 2009, I was gonna say, who says
29.
that, 2009, where we
I
would
remember
be, but like
Twilight.
Travis
Yeah.
Kelsey, I mean, that would be entertaining. That would be all right. I
Well,
mean,
listen,
or
I mean, Travis Kelsey.
but Jason Kelsey, I think would be. I mean, he's in retirement. He's got like
Mhm.
the girl dad vibes. He's,
Yeah.
I think if I was gonna choose a Kelsey brother, Jason would be my pick for that show.
Yeah, but I feel like if you get Travis, you have a better chance of landing Taylor Swift as like some
Well,
kind of cameo for an episode. I think really freaking out the fifth graders on the panel that they would have probably freaking out the adults as well. I think you have a better chance of landing Taylor if you get
yeah.
Travis.
Well, obviously,
Travis, listen, this isn't Travis's first foray into television. I don't know if a lot of you out there remember the dating show a
oh
long
yeah,
time ago. I think it was called Catching Kelsey.
yeah.
It's even before his mega fame. So, you know, this wouldn't be his first time dipping his toes into the TV pool.
He's an entertainer.
Yeah, we also another big show out there at the time was The Biggest Loser. I was
Oh,
never really a Biggest Loser fan. I do know some of the like personalities that were on there. I think Bob Harper is
mm-hmm,
actually going to be on the upcoming season of Traders.
mm-hmm.
So just that's such a random like picking of just a random person that was a personality at one point and throwing them on a current show. That was interesting. That's where Jillian Michaels got her
Yep,
start, and she's weird and odd in many different types of ways.
yep.
So we'll leave that where that is. um, but yeah, I was never a Biggest Loser fan. Were you ever a Biggest Loser girly?
No, no. I mean, when it first started, I was like, "Ooh, let me learn," because obviously, I have grown up and lived in diet culture my entire life. So it's just like, oh, just another thing to watch and do. I remember going to the gym and having The Biggest Loser on, and I was like, this is a little a little
Is this
meta.
really the
This
thing
is
we
a
want to have
little
on
too
in December?
much. Yeah. I was like, this is weird. I was like, I watched the first season because I thought it was an interesting concept for a TV show, but the emotional and like it was hard. It's hard to
It's
watch. It's
extreme.
still like hard to talk about because a lot of those people have talked about their like what that show has done to their lives afterwards
Mhm.
and like having eating disorders and things like that. So, I mean, I'm glad they're telling their stories because it speaks to the damage of diet culture, but the fact that we had a whole TV show is definitely one of those again cultural milestones or markers on the superhighway of time that I'm like, oh, I hope we don't come back to it. But we're coming back to Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, so who knows?
Yeah. Listen, I was a Celebrity Fit Club guy.
Oh, that was a show too.
I
Yeah,
did
yeah,
watch
yeah.
that. I think Richard Hatch was on that at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was an interesting moment in time. But yeah, so also we had this is going to be a big Gossip Girl episode, and we'll tell you why as the episode goes on. But this is a moment for Gossip Girl. It aired its controversial threesome episode featuring Hilary Duff. Now, I was not a Gossip Girl person at all. So this sentence surprises me. It's like what?
Well,
Like,
and
so what can you tell me about this Gossip Girl episode featuring Hilary Duff?
oh, can I just tell you that I watched Gossip Girl in a fever dream and I don't even remember this happening? I was like, oh,
It's like
this was a
what?
thing that happened. I think also what was with this week and threesomes? Like, did the
Yeah.
universe or like like TV executives get together and were like, we're gonna all help each other out and coordinate coverage? Like,
Is
I
it
have no idea. It
is
was
there some sort
very
of like
weird.
is it like a national threesome week that I'm unaware
Yeah,
of?
like
And how do I get more aware of it? Because I do want to be aware of it. So if anyone out there knows, let me know when the week is so I can mark it on my calendar. But I
well,
had
it's
no idea.
obviously November, the week of Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, true. Yes. Oh my gosh. That's so fantastic. Yes, the week of Thanksgiving is I mean Thanksgiving just
Yeah.
screams threesome when you think about it. I mean it's got the same first two
Well,
letters.
it's all about abundance, like
Yeah. So
so
let, mark it on your calendar, folks. The week of Thanksgiving. Make sure to go have yourself a threesome. Oh boy. I think I understood the word threesome on a podcast more than this. So
they might call you for sponsorship.
maybe. I mean I did podcast on a perfect match, so I'm surprised that I didn't say that word more there. So
That's true.
yes.
That is true.
Yes. So that's what was going on the week of November 24th, 2009. I think it's a little fun little segment we're going to do every week now. It's fun to look back for sure.
Yeah, just check in, get us situated in the time of the episode, see where we're at. So while people were watching 2012 and talking about Hilary Duff having a threesome on Gossip Girl, we had a little bit of a threesome action in this episode itself. Well, in terms of the conversation, not in terms of the act itself. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the case of the week, kind of set the stage, what's going on with the firm, and then we can really dig into the family stuff. Because as we mentioned last episode, family stuff is really kicking up and will probably take over the majority of the content here on the episodes going forward. It's because we kind of get the vibe of what's going on here at the firm. We finally get to meet Stern of Stern, Lockhart, and Gardner. I always mess up the name.
Or is it Lockhart, Gardner, and Stern?
I have no idea. But the Stern dude, he shows up and he's Jonah Stern. Like, I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, he's really reminiscent of like an old rock star, right? He's like he just comes in and radiates just this like personality and this charm. I think the receptionist like runs and jumps into his arms as he comes in. So I mean, he has somewhat of reputation coming in here already.
Yeah, he reminds me of like Richard Branson from like the Virgin and Atlantic Records, also airline dude. But yeah,
Mhm.
like he like walks in, everybody loves him. It's a definitely different personality than Will and Diane, who we have seen this entire time. So it was kind of like a shock to remember that they had partnered with someone
Yeah.
like him. And he's in because he has a DUI. He was arrested on a DUI and he wants to defend himself in the situation. He thinks he can take it, but then he remembers that Alicia helped out his daughter and is like, "Okay, I want her. I want her to help me." And Alicia has no choice but to say yes in this situation.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. He's like, oh, that's the his attorney's wife, like the big. I think he's using this as kind of like a smokescreen. He's like, I'm going to defend myself through her.
Yeah.
Like, I I want to defend myself, but I'm going to use Alicia as kind of a like as a figurehead, as a front, so that I can just I think he thinks in the moment he's just going to barrel her over and just do this himself basically without actually saying I want to defend myself, because I think when people come in and say I want to be my own lawyer, even if they are a lawyer, that's a little out of pocket for most people, I think.
It's not advised for sure.
Yeah.
Like not that great. But what's tricky about his DUI situation is that he did drink. He just was really drunk after the accident, not before the accident. And that's a big key and a big point in his case
Yeah, so
altogether.
it seems like he got into the accident, walked away from the accident, went and drank,
Yep.
and then the police found him at the bar after he was drinking. So
Yep.
that's a really important part of what plays out here in the case.
Yep. And we see our good buddy Matan coming in, trying to add another charge. So we already have the DUI charge, but then they're adding aggravated battery as a charge to up this to a felony court. So increasing the penalties here as well. And Jonah Stern is like not happy about the situation, obviously, but then also dismissing Alicia. And Alicia does a really great job considering everything that else is going on in this woman's life, specifically in this episode, which we will talk about. But she really does advocate for herself and for her client by saying, hey, I'm your lawyer. I know who you are. I studied you. You're a great man, but also you need help and I'm here. So why don't you let me help you?
Yeah, I mean, Alicia has to spend a good portion of the episode kind of corralling Stern, because literally Stern isn't respecting her as a lawyer in court. The judge isn't respecting Alicia as a lawyer in court,
Yep.
because the judge is basically talking to Stern instead of talking to Alicia. She has to tell multiple people in the courtroom, like, listen, I'm his lawyer, so talk to me. Don't talk to him. Talk to me. I am his lawyer. You like talking to him is like not what we do here. You talk to his lawyer when you want to talk to him. So she has to really kind of, like you said, like stand up for herself in multiple ways in this court case, from the judge to the prosecution to Stern himself. She has to really advocate for herself the whole time, and by the end of it, she will show why she is the ish, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, we should also probably talk about who are playing some of these people that we're talking
Yeah,
about. Jonah Stern is played by Kevin Conway, who was in Oz, in the Black Donnellys, in Outer Limits, and he's just the Broadway guy.
yeah, he's a big Broadway person. I mean, we talked about when we did Elsbeth, we talked about a lot about the Kings love their Broadway
They
people.
do.
So this is another guy has been on Broadway a lot, and it's another like not overly famous person that we're just like, yeah, he's been in a lot of things. Like he's
Well,
done a lot of work out there.
and he can bring it. Like he's
Yeah,
gonna be like at the same level as our cast as in general. So
in this role.
he's pretty good. We also have Judge Romano, who's played by Joanna Gleason. I know Joanna Gleason from The West Wing. I love The West Wing. She played Leo's ex-wife in the situation. Also a lawyer on that show. She's shown up in a couple of other places, including The Wedding Planner and Mr. Holland's Opus. A classic.
Yeah,
A fave.
I had no idea who this person was. You had to be like, yeah, Jason, this is actually a person. I was like, oh, okay, sure, you say so.
But yeah, she has a very small role in this episode, but she also is able to bring herself to the role. Joanna Gleason, she also was like we were looking up was in Different Strokes, so around. She's been
She's
around
been
for
around
a
the block.
while. Yeah.
Yeah.
So during this case, basically Stern is like just leaning on his like reputation and cases that he's done before and what's worked for him before. He's trying to get the video, that like the dash cam footage basically of the arrest like thrown out because he thinks he sees it as outside evidence. And this is something he does not talk to Alicia about before like going into court. So Alicia's really flying by the seat of her pants here. It's not working under Stern's strategy, but Alicia is able to turn it so that it can be thrown out and kind of show Stern like, hey, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because Stern wants the dash cam video. He wants to subpoena it to present it, because I think in the moment he thinks like, "Oh, please, I didn't hurt anyone. I didn't do anything. Like, get the dash cam. We'll show I didn't do anything." And then when they get the dash cam video, like, "Oh yeah, I totally did. Just literally assault a police officer." So yeah, and in court, as we see like this case get started, Stern is Stern is literally talking, and Alicia has to chase him with what he's saying because he's saying the right things which Alicia would have said, but Alicia has to speak over Stern because Stern is basically taking control, trying to take control of the case himself, and Alicia's like having to follow right behind him, making it look like she doesn't know what she's doing. So I think it was very interesting how it all started and where we ended up.
Yeah, it was very frustrating to watch as well. I was
Mhm.
like, just give her a chance, give her a
Yeah.
moment. Throughout this as well, they needed to look back into a case that Stern was on having to do with Tolliver and Associates, I think. Like
Yeah,
the
because the Tolliver guy who was associated with the firm actually testifies, who I think was actually lying under oath, and
yeah,
said that he saw Stern drinking several
like
drinks
six drinks.
at the cocktail party that they were all at before Stern got into his car. And so they have to figure out like, why is this guy lying on me? And apparently, you know, Stern had done something against the Toffer industry, so this is kind of payback and all that that leads to.
Yeah, so they went to go look and see, hey, can we get the case files, any case files that Tolliver was on? And it turns out that Will is really digging in on his move here, trying to make a move against Stern and try to get Stern kicked out of the firm. He's already taken those cases out of the library, had Carrie do it, interestingly
Which
enough.
this whole little like power struggle kind of happens in the background of this episode.
Yeah.
Like we see Will and Diane marshaling their forces. Like we actually see Will talking to Carrie, where I would assume that's where he tells Carrie like, "Go pull all the records for all the stuff Stern did." I'm like, Will's talking to Carrie. This is interesting. What's going on here? So we kind of see like the power struggle with, because I mean Diane wants Stern to stay because, as she has said in this episode and previous episodes, Stern is really on her side and votes with her all the time. And Will obviously is looking at this as a chance to get Stern out of the way so that maybe he and Diane can have a little more of a even ground as in terms of like who runs this firm. Because as they say, like Stern, doesn't show up. I don't think he's been in the actual like physical law firm in a year. So it's kind of Will and Diane running this thing, but they still need Stern as a vote for whatever they need. So this is Will's chance to get on more of a level playing field with Diane.
And while this is all happening, Stern is demonstrating some concerning behaviors. He's being like super mean to Diane by saying like the only reason you're here is because you were a woman, you're the only woman available or something like that. He's forgetting a lot of information. He gets confused, and also Will
He
brings up to
undresses
Elite. What?
he undresses in front of Alicia. Like
Yes,
when Alicia goes to his
yes.
office, he's like literally undressing in front of her. So he's really displaying some very erratic behavior.
Yeah, and Will has picked up that like looking through his cases, he has misfiled things, he's forgotten deadlines, he's done all this, and he comes in with such a bravado and such a like distracting personality. But Alicia's able to kind of put the pieces together, that along with the fact that he's like taking a lot of medication, and determine that this man probably has dementia, and uses her good friend Kalinda to kind of break into Stern's box and find the dementia drunks. And when she confronts Stern about this, Stern is not happy about this. She's like, there's only three people who know: my doctor, me, and you have attorney client privilege, and you can't tell anyone.
And Alicia's probably like, I mean, and Kalinda, but I'm not gonna tell you that. So for people.
Yeah, I'd be like, there's one more person. So Beck, at the end of this court case, it turns out that the cop did not offer a preliminary breathalyzer. So the breathalyzer that was being used in this, the one where he had had all of those drinks after being in the bar, was at a level of 1.5, but the preliminary one was thrown out because of the cop, basically, in that situation.
Yeah, and it's an interesting case because at first the guy's like, well, yeah, sometimes I don't give breathalyzer. It's like it's not a big of a deal. And Alicia's like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
huh? Oh yeah, buddy. Like this is another classic. Like I'm gonna lead you into this trap. Like, well, I pulled your basically all the DUIs you
37.
ever had in your career,
Yeah.
which is 37, and you've given a breathalyzer on every single one of them. So what's up? He's like, all right, well, I did do a breathalyzer, but it didn't show that he was like really drunk. And he's like, well, that's because he had just had some drinks. So it wouldn't show up that he was drunk when he was driving the car. But of course, an hour later, after he downs all those drinks after the accident, then yeah, he is going to be really drunk. But so basically, it was interesting because she uses this as like, okay, so he used improper procedure.
Yep.
So therefore, everything else can be thrown out, including the dash cam video of of Stern insulting the officer, which is a really
Yeah.
good strategy on Alicia's part.
Well, and the judge is even like, listen, you've got like 5 minutes to make a deal. Otherwise, this is not going your way.
Yeah.
And he ends up getting a misdemeanor assault charge with time served and probation. So he, I guess, gets out of it. I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
pretty
mean,
much.
basically, nothing. He doesn't even get a slap on the wrist. I don't.
Yeah.
This isn't really
It's
anything.
just like, okay. It turns out, though, that this is not the end of Stern's storyline here in The Good Wife. He has decided, after being called up by Alicia, by coming in, seeing all the infighting that's happening in the firm, this man wants to start his own firm, break out of
Yeah,
things, and asks Alicia, like, "Hey, I want you to be part of it." And she can't do it.
yeah, and it was just because like I didn't remember much about how the Stern comes off of Stern, Lockhart, and Gardner, or whatever the order of operations is. I didn't remember much about it, and for it to be this way was interesting. And now it is because Alicia tells him, like, listen, bro, like with this condition you have, you shouldn't be driving, let alone practicing law.
Right.
And so when he comes in and tells Diane, like, listen, I'm not going to fight you guys. I'm trying to get me out. We're thinking like, oh yeah, he took Alicia's words to heart. He's gonna retire. He's like, oh no, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it up even bigger now. I'm gonna just take all your clients. I'm gonna take the biggest clients you have, which are mine. I'm gonna take them with me, and I'm gonna get a bunch of young, hungry lawyers, some of your best and brightest. And I'm gonna take them with me, and I'm piecing out. I was like, oh, so you are basically just taking a bigger even leap here than what you should be. You should be retiring, but now you're just going to start a whole new thing.
And I
And like
think
you said,
the
Alicia's like, bro, I told you not to do this. You have an ethical duty not to do. He's like, I'll just get the lawyers to do it. I won't. I think his plan is not to do a lot of the actual lawyering work, just to be more of like a figurehead, I guess.
Yeah, but I think it's also like I think this whole thing is his reaction to dementia because he has an accident which is was because of his medication and he should not be driving. So he has an accident. Then he goes and, drinks himself into a stupor because he feels like I can't drive anymore. I think he knows that. I think he knows he can't drive. I think he knows he can't practice law. And so with his whole life falling apart basically, he's really just digging in. It reminds me of another show that we've talked about recently. It reminds me of the bear a little bit, like just digging into that other side of the argument, and instead of facing the issue and instead of kind of getting the help and support that he needs, he's like, I can fix this. I'm going to just be bigger and better than I am now, and I'm going to also just tell these people, like, the reason why I can't be with you right now is because I love you too much and you're fighting.
Yeah,
So I'm going to be over here and set up my own thing. So I never like it when characters or people in real life, myself included, do these type of things because it never really pans out. So we'll
yeah.
have to see.
Yeah, it never works going the opposite way, going against the grain of
Yeah.
what's probably best for yourself. But I mean, listen, Stern basically drops like a couple bombs on Alicia on his way out the door.
He does. Yeah. I was gonna tie them into the end of the Alicia story because I think they make a bigger impact once we know kind of like where her head's at in that situation. But
Makes
yeah,
sense.
he's definitely like he knows some things. And so I think Alicia leaves that situation going, okay, now what? Like, now what do I do? Speaking of Alicia, okay, there was a lot happening in the Alicia Peter world this episode. This episode starts off and we're introduced to a character named Amber Madison. And I know you had mentioned that, oh, she wasn't on Gossip Girl. There was another person on Gossip Girl, which I'll talk about in a minute. But we're introduced to Amber Madison. Amber Madison is played by Kim Shaw. She was on a show called Saving Hope, and she also was in the show You. And she is playing one of
Well,
Peter's. Yeah,
yeah, I think it was the main one. This was
yeah,
like the one.
yeah,
The basically to tie it to real life goings on. She was the Stormy Daniels
yes,
of this fictional world before Stormy Daniels was a thing. I do wonder if this Amber Madison is supposed to be like a play on Ashley
yes.
Madison, which is like the that site that people use. And I have that in case my wife is listening to this, I have no idea about this site, which
That
is Ashley Madison.
people
Yeah, people
use.
use to cheat on their significant others.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that was part of it. And she's being interviewed by Chelsea Handler, who was like asking all of the questions about everything that this woman did with Peter and all of the stuff. And she's telling about how she would call the house and ring once, and then he would know that the next call's from her, and they had a threesome. And that's why, like, the whole reason that he reached out to her is because that's what he wanted. And he offered her a job, but he was a really compassionate lover. So
Also, a lot of talk about toe sucking.
yeah,
So,
it was a little too much. A little too much.
yeah.
Another member of Peter's team that was introduced to the audience last episode, but we're going to talk about her here. Her name is Kaya. She is our PR representative. So basically, Peter is not just trying to win an appeal here. We all know he is trying to rebuild his political career. And Kaya Poole is played by Francie Swift. She was in 2 Weeks Notice and Gossip Girl, and also Thoroughbreds. I did not recognize her. Did you recognize her from anywhere?
No, not at all. Like
Yeah.
she didn't really ring on. She didn't ring on my register. Not even a little. In last episode when we meet Kaya, I think Alicia's almost like trauma response is to see any young,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful woman in Peter's orbit and be like, "What's going on here? What's up? Like, why you hire this
Well,
person? Like, why is she here? Why is she? What's going on here?" I think that's kind of her response to. I mean, listen, she has every right
good
to think that
reason. Yeah.
because of what Peter has done here.
Well, and also the conversations that she's had with Peter, we get a I'll stop by after work, I'll be there, type of thing, or say hi to Will, and those type of things are all the things you want to say to get under Alicia's skin in a way. And Kaya's like trying to also really paint her as a good wife and in this picture, so she doesn't really know how to trust Kaya. But in this situation, Kaya walks in because this is an interview that the kids have seen. This is an interview that the office has seen. This is an
Yeah.
interview that pretty much everyone on the planet except for Alicia has seen. And Kaya's like, it's just gossip. I'm not going to worry about it unless it reminds me of this other client that I had where the girl, where the woman, we tried to buy her off. We tried to give her all these offers. And she wouldn't give in because she was in love with the man. And so if that's the situation, then we got a real problem here.
Yeah, well, and speaking of I loved how this was introduced in the episode where we see everyone watching it, including Grace and Zach, who everyone's seeing this really personal interview. We see like the really kind of salacious bits first. We see the toe sucking stuff, and it's like everyone's seen it, but Alicia. Alicia is so kind of just
She's
blissfully unaware, like
like cracking
she's
jokes at breakfast, just like,
yeah.
hey, here's fruit. You want to try it?
Yeah, the kids are like, "Okay, mom, whatever. You don't know what I just saw." So Alicia's walking in the office, and we see our girl Courtney,
Yeah.
played by Sonequa Martin Green, who we talked about a couple episodes ago, who shows back and was just like, "Hey, girl, like, you really need to see this." I'm not sure why we need to have Courtney do this. Like, we could have Kalinda do this. I feel like they've really wasted Courtney. We saw her big time in the other episode, and then this is the next time we see her where she gets 2 minutes of screen time. I was like,
Oh,
what was the point of
but
Courtney?
she does a lot with those 2 minutes because Carrie is being
Mhm.
obnoxious and saying, Courtney, I need you. Courtney, come here. Courtney. She's like, no, I need
Courtney,
to do this. This is like a girl code thing happening right now. I owe it to this woman to let her know what the world is saying about her husband and what is happening. And so she makes sure, like, she closes the door, she pulls it up.
mhm.
And so Courtney's a real one. Like,
Courtney said, "Boy, I ain't Julian Jacobs. I'm not gonna jump. And when you say jump, I'm not gonna come run into you. Like,
yeah.
I'm gonna help out my girl Alicia. Make sure she knows the tea before she go out here and be unaware of why people are looking at her crazy." And just that walk of like, you know, people might want to call it the walk of shame, whatever it is, because Alicia gets called up to go see Will and Diane, and she's walking and she can just see all of her colleagues
Well,
looking at her because everyone's seen this thing where in the part of the video that Alicia sees, as we see, they talk more about the kind of emotional affair
mhm.
that Amber had with Peter and how like Peter said he was going to divorce Alicia for me. He was going to get me a job on his staff, and talks about the fact that Alicia would to engage in a threesome with Peter. So that's why Peter came to Amber. It's just like there's so many hits that Alicia takes at one time. It really just kind of shell shocks her in the moment, and then she walks up to Will and Diane's office, and as she's walking, she sees all the people that she knows has seen this interview just staring at her. That's got to be like, as a character, the worst thing that you can go through, like in that moment.
Yeah, it's definitely like reminiscent of like the Game of Thrones shame bell or
Mhm.
some some other walks like that. But when she goes up to go see Will and Diane, they're also watching the news. She's like, oh my God, like, what is this going to be? But they were watching coverage of Stern, like the announcement of Stern's DUI. So I thought that was a clever twist for
Scary.
the audience at that time. But yeah, everyone needs a Courtney. Like
Yeah.
she did the real work there. So Alicia, now knowing this information, has to go tell her kids. And I loved the scene because Alicia did, like, again, like textbook parenting. Like, I don't know what's real, but I'm going to find out. And I'm going to ask these questions. And the kids are like, threesome, three-way, like, what do you call it? I don't know what to call it. And also, again, Zach is just like, well, mom totally, like, dad's already apologized for what he did. So why can't mom be nice to him? And Grace is like,
Bro.
excuse me.
Yeah, bro, that's not how it works, man. Like, you can't just apologize and be like, it's all good now. I think Zach really wants just his dad to be his dad again, and his mom, his dad to be
Yeah.
all good. He's kind of fooling himself in a way. As smart as Zach is, he's not really kind of wise in the ways of relationship and how serious this is.
Oh, I don't think he's wise in the ways of relationship in his own life as well either, because he
No.
brings home Becca, who was played by Dreama Walker, who was in Gossip Girl, and Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23. That was also a fever dream of a show. I was like, James
Yeah,
Vanderbeek, what are you doing here? What's going on?
yeah,
Um, but that's where she shows up from. And she, first of all, is there like saying, hey, people are making bets on your parents' divorce. That's wild. But then also, hey, someone in chemistry told me that like your mom or your dad and Amber did it on your bed, like right here. And the way she's a 16-year-old girl, this girl, the way she said that, she puts her leg up on the bed, she pulls up closer. I was like, oh, what is happening? I was
yeah.
very
It's
like, this is, I am speechless. I have no words.
Becca and people like Becca are parents' worst nightmare for many different reasons. And listen, I remember Becca. Like Becca, this is not the last one to see of Becca. Becca's
Correct.
going to come up later in other episodes. Becca's a menace. She's definitely a menace in many different ways. She gets. I think she almost wants to do this with Zach so that she can. It seems like she wants to
She
have
wants to
this
be
for
close to the
status.
fame. Yeah.
Yeah, she wants this for status to say that she did it on the same bed where Peter and Amber did it. I thought Zach was like, "Well, this is a different bed. This isn't the same bed, so it wouldn't really be like we were doing on the same bed. Just good old Encyclopedia Brown Zach, just having to state the facts. Like, so I mean, really. And listen, Zach is every 14-year-old heterosexual male in this situation because as he as and I cackled at this. Like as Zach gets, so he's like pulling his pants straight. He's like, yeah. Like, I'm surprised I'm like, I can't really stand up right
He's
now.
got he definitely had some adjustments to make.
Yeah, like whoa, like pants got tight for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Well, before Becca leaves though, well, first of all, she's doing all of the like, you need to be a rebel, have some fun in your life, like all of the classic menace lines. And then also it says, anytime you need your parents to give you something, just play this. And I first of all, Zach, the innocent kid that he is, but also the very white suburban, well, he's not suburban, but the very white kid that he is. Is it rap? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Is it
Oh,
rap?
is it the hippity hop? Is that what this is?
And then also in the very of the time of it all, it was not rap. It was like it was Islamic. I think like call to prayer, or at least very.
What Jackie called it, Muslim music. Oh man.
And also automatically, because Becca brought the CD over, Becca was a Muslim. Like
Mhm.
automatically, like
Yeah.
already given that label. So I did think it was very funny. Like it was very cringy because of like the Islamophobia. Not a fan
Mhm.
of that, but just the fact that that was a play that she thought could work is
Yeah,
just,
I mean, you also have to think about the time this
it was a
was, where
time. Mm,
yeah, it was definitely a time where that was like, Islamophobia was rampant, in the days in the years after 9/11,
yeah.
obviously. So that was an interesting little look into that, and just just the way Becca comes out and she's like, "Hi, Mrs. Florrick," and Jackie's like, "Were you just in my grandson's room? Like, what's up?" She's like, "Oh yeah, we were just studying. Bye." Like,
Bye.
ooh, that girl is a menace. That is a Delilah.
And like the next thing Jackie hears is the music. So
Oh
she's
man,
like,
so funny.
it was funny. It was funny.
I know it's wrong, but it's funny while being wrong at
Agreed.
the same time. I
Agreed.
cackled. That was such a funny scene. This is a really funny episode, actually. Like when I think
There's
about it, like I laugh a lot in this episode.
there's some good moments. Alicia, well, first of all, Kalinda. So missing the first girl situation by telling Alicia what's going on after everything that's going on, and she sees how people are looking at Alicia in the office. She's like, "Do you?" And Amber keeps calling. So or
Mm,
Ashley keeps Amber keeps calling.
Amber
Amber keeps calling, and so then
calling
Kalinda's
Alicia at
like,
work, like,
"Yeah, do you want me
bruh.
to do something? Do you want me to talk to her? And what would that entail?"
Kalinda, like, you want me to handle it? Like, I can handle this for you. Like, I got you. Like, listen, have you some wing women like Courtney and Kalinda. That's all you need in your
Yes.
life.
Yes.
People to hold you down in the right way. Listen, what was the name of you probably don't remember this, but the name of the old friend that Alicia had that, dropped her as soon as she got, like, in
Oh, the
trouble?
lady who had the party at the house.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that's not a real one. That's not a
Yeah.
real friend.
No.
Kalinda and Courtney, they got your back and they will ruckus for you.
Yes.
So that was great. Kalinda's like, you want me to talk to her? You want me to handle it? I got you. Like if you need me, I got it. Like just let me know. Like give me the word. I think Kalinda almost like really wanted to do it. Like it
It was
wasn't like
so
I'll
funny.
do this if you want me to. She's like, no, I really want to do it. Like I'm itching to do this. Like let me do it.
Well,
Like let me off the chain, boss. Let me off the chain.
and Alicia can tell. She's like, what would that entail? And Glinda's like, talking, just talking. That's it. That's all it would be.
Talking with the air quotes,
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah.
Does also involve like torturing her in a basement or something, Kalinda? Like, what are you looking to do here?
Yeah. She really
I
wants
wish,
to
I
do
wish,
something.
yeah, I wish Alicia would let her because I would like to see what that looks like.
Well, we still got some time. We're only in episode 9 of a 22 episode
Yeah,
season. So this is really taking a toll on Alicia. Like, she not only is dealing with processing the information that her husband and Amber were like a thing, and apparently it meant something to Amber. She's dealing with having to tell her kids. She's dealing with how her kids are acting in the situation. And so she like very vulnerably goes up to Peter in his fancy conference room that he has instead of his jail cell and says, "Hey, look, like you need to make this stop. You I can't do this anymore. I can't keep answering these questions. It's too much." And I loved when Peter said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And Alicia just was like, "Whatever." Like,
listen, bro, this is your mess. Like,
yeah.
you guys, I can't do all the work, but this is just has to stop. Like, and I think this is the most vulnerable we've seen Alicia in the 9 episodes we've gone through.
Yeah.
Like, she's literally crying. Like, we have not seen her cry. I don't think in the past 9 episodes, and she was really emotional here because like this is really hitting home, and like she was avoiding Peter after the whole interview, and like even when she was talking to Grace and Zach, she's like, yeah. I probably should have done that. I need to go face him. I need to go talk to him. And this was the moment where she was just like, this is hitting home. This is hitting the home front. It's not just hitting me. It's hitting our kids. So you got to fix it. Do what you got to do for your family because this is your mess. You need to clean it up.
Yeah. I just it was a beautiful moment of vulnerability. Not a fun moment, not a like, but it was very, I think, very true to a very human moment that we saw in that situation. Yeah. So after learning that Becca was in Zach's bedroom, Jackie takes it upon herself to go through all of the things in Zach's room, finds his A plus papers, so proud, but then finds the photos and the DVD behind
Bruh.
the
So, but no,
poster.
let's also talk
And
about what she
oh, also
found.
the sex thing.
Yeah, and of course, our guy, Encyclopedia Brown Zach, has a pamphlet on sexual urges and desires. Of course he does, because he needs all the information he can get to figure out what's going on with his hormones and his body. That was so funny. And then, yeah, like you said, Jackie, the meddling grandma that she is, finds the evidence, if you will, of that Zach has gathered from the anonymous source.
Well, and I don't even like, I'm sure there's not even like a I can't believe that's my son moment. Like she's looking at pictures of her son in this situation. She like
Right.
stuffs it away, throws it out. It's
It's as
done.
if she found regular porn. She's just like, "Oh my god, I can't believe my grandson's watching this. Let me go throw it in the trash." Not like, "I need to really figure out what the heck's going on here because this is photos of Peter doing drugs. This is
Yeah.
photos of Peter and his mistress. Like, what is this all about?" She's like, "Oh my, this trash," and just like throws it in the garbage chute or whatever. Like, I think if I was Jackie, I would have done some more investigation.
Well, but she's like, I know the solution to this. First, I'm going to tell Alicia that there was a
Mhm.
girl over and the door was closed and all of this stuff. And she's a Muslim. But also, the answer is church. You have
Yeah.
to take the kids to church. And I
Yes.
loved Alicia's reaction. She was like, "Are you serious? Like this is what it is."
No, I felt that because that's what my mother would do if that was a situation. It's stuff that my mother has done, and said. So that I very much related to that.
Yeah, well, it gets Alicia to go like ask Zach like what's really going on here. And he's like, "Well, Becca's nice. You would love her." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm sure I would. And she can come over as long as she stays out of your bedroom." And Zach, like any other teenager, this was like so classic. I had been Zach in this situation, like just trying to outsmart your parents. Well, the computer's in here. Like, what am I gonna do? There's nothing that can happen. And Alicia's totally
It's
goes
not
into
like the
mom
computer is
mode.
Yeah, it's not like the computer is portable. It has to stay here.
Yeah.
It's hardwired into this room. He's like, and listen, I love kind of the payoff we've gotten because Alicia has been very like, you know, she's been understanding with the kids because she knows the kids going through a lot.
Yep.
But now this is a line that's been crossed. Like, listen, you have girls in your room with the door closed. We're finding all this, uh, you know, you doing all this weird stuff. So now I have to really get into mom mode and put my foot down. And I have it's so crazy because I have been Zach and I have been Alicia in these
Mhm.
moments. I have experienced things like this on both sides. And of course your perspective shifts as you age. And it's just that classic, like, all right, you're doing a little too much now. So now you have to put up some new boundaries and rules. And of course, the teenager is not gonna like that at all.
Well, he wants his privacy, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
of course.
and so does Alicia. And she's like, I can relate in this situation. But this is like one thing she can actually really parent on that has nothing to do with Peter. Like, it does
Right.
have something to do with Peter, but she doesn't know that. But like,
Mom,
this is classic, like,
how am I gonna
teenager.
solve dad's case if you take the computer out of my bedroom? You know how many nights I've spent analyzing the spectral highlight analysis? I can't do that out in the open. I had to only do it in my room where you can't see. So yeah, I really appreciated that as as a parent and also as a teen who has had similar struggles where she's like, "Oh, you want privacy? Sure, no problem when you're 18, but for now, computer stays out here." Like, love that moment. Loved it.
Yeah. And I think Jackie also loved it. She was like,
Yes.
okay, you can you got the Jackie stamp of approval on this one. It's not church, but it's something.
Yeah. And I love that like Jackie and Alicia like share a look where like Jackie's like, okay, got some respect for you now. Like I see you're being a good mom. And Alicia's like, damn right I'm a good mom. And then just the moment where the quote unquote Muslim music comes on. I fell out laughing. It was so hilarious. I really, really loved how that whole scene was done. And to shift back a little bit, as Zach as teenagers will lash out at his mom
Hmm.
like, oh, you're just upset because you trusted dad, he broke your trust, and you think that same thing's gonna happen with me. I was like, ooh, ouch, that hurts. That
Yeah.
hurts.
Well, and I think he's also that comes from him thinking to himself, "Will I be like dad? Will I do these things?" And
Yeah,
that's, I
that
mean, the
makes
kid's carrying a lot. Like, he's annoying as all hell, but he
sense.
is going through a lot of
How
things.
dare you? How dare you talk about Encyclopedia Brown like that? He's
He's
on the
super
case, Marissa.
annoying. Like, I can't. Anyway, Ashley goes to meet up with Peter. Peter is taking action after Alicia has come to visit, and
Is he ever?
coming over, Alicia's, but I keep writing Ashley. Amber comes in and she knows exactly what to do, what to say, what to expect. She's like, "Hey, do you have an offer? Like,
Mhm.
this is for how much? What do we do?" And the counter here was pretty interesting because Peter basically used information that she had told him in the confidentiality of their relationship to kind of tell her, like, if you keep talking, I'm going to hurt you.
I'm going to set this like mob boss on you.
Hmm.
Like, you told me about his mob dealings, and I will let it out that you told me information about him. I will lie and say that you talk about him in your book. Like, basically threatening to get her murdered. Is like it's like insinuation here. Like, you will end up swimming with the fishes if you don't like stop this nonsense.
It is a side of Peter that I think we've known was there, but haven't really like seen come out. And then how he like closes that whole argument of like, to defend my family, you have no idea what I'm
Yeah,
capable of doing.
and just the coldness that he displays here. Like, and he has Terminator guy Daniel basically as his mouthpiece to give the finer details, but all Peter will ever really say is like, "You called my wife at work."
Hmm.
Like, he
Hmm.
says it a couple times, and he does say a thing like, "You have no idea
It
what
was,
I will do, what I'm capable of to protect my family." It's like, oh crap! Like, I'm scared of Peter right now. Like,
yeah,
oof,
yeah, I
it
know. There
was a
were
lot.
chills. I was like, "Mm." Yeah. So Peter's gotten serious. And this at this point in the episode, this is when Stern was telling everyone he was leaving and asking Alicia to join. And this is when Stern drops this information into the Alicia who has just gone through all of this stuff having to do with this case. Stern's like, "Hey, FYI, yo, there's a lot of people that made a bad bet and now they're covering their ass. Your husband was set up and they are never going to let him out of prison." And so she has to think about that on top of everything else. And also, what does Stern know? No, what else does he know? What else could he slip up on? I know he said in that conversation, like, that's all you get. I'm not like your deep throat in the situation. I'm not gonna divulge and name people. But at the same time, he also has dementia and he might forget and he might tell people and she might find out.
Yeah, but like that's the most annoying person, right? Where it's like being so vague. It's like people will put on Facebook, "Oh my gosh, I just had the worst day." And you're like, "What's wrong?" It's like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about it." Like, no, you opened the door,
Yeah.
so come all the way through. Don't give me some of the information. Give me all the information. That's so annoying. Yeah, he just puts it out there like, "Yeah, by the way," like he almost kind of drops it casually. He's like, "By the way, your husband was really set up, and he's never getting out of jail." She's like,
I,
Wait, what? What do you mean? What do you mean?" He's like, "Ah." That's all I really want to say right now.
that's it. Yeah, I have to go
Also
find a new
dropping,
office in the loop.
yeah, also dropping like, the fact that as everyone else has told Alicia as well, you can't trust Will. Will's gonna stab me in the
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, I know. I still
If
love
everybody's
Will.
saying it, I mean, there might be something to it, but who knows? But yeah, woo, this is a big, big, big episode for Alicia and her kin, her family.
Well, and she's not even done yet because after
Hmm.
all of this, okay, so like let's just think of Alicia's day. Okay. Like she had the whole Stern situation. She gets Stern some probation, some time served, things like that, comes back, finds out Stern's starting his own thing, gets asked to leave. She's had this whole conversation with Jackie, things going on with the kids. She's leaving work. She goes into the parking garage, and who is there like leaning up against her car? None other than Amber Madison. And Amber, like, this is again where I think it's really tricky for women because Amber's being really vulnerable and saying, like, look, your husband threatened me and all of this stuff. And but Alicia, how could Alicia like care in the situation based on everything that has been done in this situation? Like, it's such a hard thing because like Amber is in danger to a
I mean,
certain extent.
Amber is in danger off of Amber's own.
Oh, yes, she did it to herself. Yes, I agree.
And Amber is being even dumber by making this move, because this is after Peter threatened her that if she didn't leave his family alone, he would sick a mob boss on her, or mob gangster, whatever level of organization that guy is in. He will sick him on her, and she takes it a step further by stalking Alicia in the parking lot. Why would you do that, girl? I think it was a last kind of fu to Peter to kind of do this and get in Alicia's head, because I think the threat worked in a way, because I don't she's Amber's not going to do any more interviews. She's probably going to pull
Right.
her book. So I think this is a last like ditch thing for Amber to do to try and f Peter's world up at this point, because Peter is taking a lot away from her right now. So she wants to get any kind of
Well,
vindictive move she can.
and she's also dealing with the fact that he doesn't love her because she was still like caught up in the whole
Yeah,
like I don't
I
know
don't
how
know.
much I believe that, but that's what they said in the show.
Yeah. I don't know if that's ever really a thing. I know Kaya was like, I had this situation, so maybe this is that situation. But I don't know if that was the case with Amber, or if this was just a kind of a get rich quick scheme.
Yeah.
But this was crazy. This was like, wow, this is a
Well,
lot. I love Alicia's like stone coldness through it, of just like not engaging, just getting
and
in her
driving
car
away in her Buick again.
away, and then yeah, in her Buick, and doing what she does next.
Yeah, she just like I was very surprised at this, but that she again. How long is Peter in this conference room? Like this has got to be like 9 o'clock at night. I have no
Does he
idea.
live there now?
Like,
Like,
yeah, like I don't know. Anyway, he's there and she just marches right in and gives him a kiss and leaves. No words, no nothing. And it's not like a peck on the cheek.
yeah,
Or
it's
like
passionate.
it's a kiss, a real kiss.
Yeah, the things that rev people's engines. You just never know sometimes. You never know people's kings. And
Well, we
someone, your husband threatening someone else on behalf of his family really gets Alicia going.
but we saw a little bit of that in that one episode where with the bracelet and everything when we got to see like past Peter or like when they were at like she loves it when he's smart and uses his brain and does good. And in
Yeah,
her
and also
mind,
he threatens people.
yeah, like in her mind, she doesn't want to know. Like I'm sure she could put two and two together, but she doesn't want to know. She doesn't want any part of it. But the fact that this was good in her mind, he used his powers for good, was something that
Yeah,
she's like going to reward him for. I wonder if Peter is going to put together that the whole reason that Alicia knows that Amber's gonna not stop saying things is because she was confronted and still make moves to threaten
I think
Amber.
he,
But I feel
I think
like
he'll let.
it's a
I think
little
even
bit
if
of a
he
risky
knew,
move.
yeah, I think even if he knew, he'd let it go. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if he's ever. I mean, he probably would make good on his threat if she didn't stop. Well, I honestly don't know. Peter is a very complex character. Like he does good, he does bad. I don't know if he would ever actually set someone to kill Amber, but I think his message got across to Amber though.
Yeah. So there we are. How do we feel like what do we think Alicia thinks right now? What do you think's going through her head? This
I
is a
mean, like you
big
said,
episode and the last one too.
I think Alicia is. I think it really does something for Alicia that through all this, Peter is going to protect his family. Peter is going to take these drastic steps to make sure that Amber doesn't hurt them anymore. So that really does something for her. It's tough because I think like tomorrow after Alicia comes down off of this high, because that's kind of what it is right now. It's like, wow, this is a lot. I think Peter's still going to be in the doghouse, but I think less in the doghouse than he was. I think Alicia still doesn't know what she's going to do
Yeah.
if and when Peter leaves prison.
But at least she can sleep tonight to
Yeah,
the best of her ability. And
yeah.
so can me.
Alicia's had the day or the week from hell, so yeah, it's tough.
Well, that's it for this one.
Yeah, Marissa, do you want to tell the folks where they can find you
You can
and
find
all
me
your uses?
at It's Me Marissa G on Instagram and Threads. That's where I'm hanging out these days. If I'm up to something fun and exciting, I will be sure to tell you there.
Awesome. You can find me on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it at JAYR1085. 5. And if I'm doing anything podcast wise that comes up, you'll find it there. So just stay tuned to that. And that's where I'll be. Again, if you want to help us out by supporting us, you can do that in a variety of ways. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can leave us a thumbs up down here. If you're listening to us on Spotify, you can give us a rating with the stars. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, you can write a review and leave 5 stars. Whatever podcast app you're using, I'm sure there's some rating mechanism. If you have it, please give us the best that you can. And if you want to talk to us via email, you can always do that through thegoodpodfeedback@gmail.com. Until next week, stay good.